What's up, everyone? This is Soul, and we're back with another episode of League Season. This is where I take some of the garbage, some of the stuff that I've scraped up around the internet, mostly from MMO Champion. What's going to happen in 11.0? Some of these leaks are supposedly claiming, and you know, it's all fake, it's all garbage, it's all trash, and we're going to give it the same respect in a kind of lighthearted and hopefully whimsical way. Feel free to hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and let's just get right into it because we got 8 of these to cover, and I know that these episodes have been like pretty long lately, so we'll try to be a bit more brisk. So we're going to start off by trying not to sneeze, and we'll start with World of Warcraft Nightmare. I'll try to keep things relatively short, while also wait, how short is this? This is not short at all, Chat GPT person. I'll try to keep things relatively short while also giving you the information I have and context for things. I have a family member who works on WoW, way to betray your family, and she doesn't know I play or care about the things that she leaks out. Most of the time, it's pretty minor stuff, but she was pretty excited and proud to be working on this one, so she gave me a decent amount of details. Right. So the family member who works on WoW is going to just like let it all out to you because she thinks that you don't play. She knows you play. And again, way to betray your family member. What a dick. The start 10.3 is happening. Surprise, surprise. And Araethum wins by transporting a piece of the Void Realm around Azeroth. Much like Argus, the skybox will reflect this for everyone. Outside of the skybox, not much will change until the expansion launch. So it's a piece of the Void Realm around Azeroth, as like a blanket or something. Nightmare sees players journey to Avalorn, which is the large continent on the backside of Azeroth, tainted and hidden by the darkness of a fifth and final old god, Kanarthketh, who is being used as a beacon for the Void to fully corrupt Azeroth. Her followers are devoted, and the heretics are mentioned in the Ultimate books. She's a lot different than the other old gods, as she is more kind and caring for her followers compared to her brethren. The heretics are Vrykul with mouths on their stomachs and 4 arms. They have great temples and offerings in her honor. Right. I'm just going to highlight this part there for a little bit longer, just to point out the ridiculousness of, you know, how this person learned this stuff and the amount of detail that we're getting here. So did he ask this relative, hey, is it K with an apostrophe, Northcath, or is it like, or is there no apostrophe? Can you get the phonetics here, please? Avalorn is about the size of Eastern Kingdoms or Kalimdor, with 5 zones at launch, 4 leveling, and 1 at max level. Most of the size is not land, and it's got a lot of water, oh boy, mixed with void energies, giving it a nice psychedelic feel. So like an oil spill. Described, it is like an oil spill all across the waters. This gives a cracked look to the map across all of Avalorn. Underwater exploration is a big deal. Dead expansion. You'll be able to dragon ride from the start, as the place is big, but there's an underwater version called void skipping. It's a bit more like dragon racing underwater. You're flying through void rings and skipping through its energy, giving you a boost. Since a lot of rivers connect and lead all around a zone, you can skip around underwater and coming up once you need for a quest, mobs, dungeon, etc. There's 3 beasts that void skip as well as dragon ride, and the transition between underwater and sky is seamless. It's less clunky than it is currently. They're based on past old gaudy mounts, a worm or serpent, a jellyfish, and a seahorse. Wow, you got so many details here, buddy. The sky will remain within the void throughout the expansion post 10.3. It affects all players, and as such, new players going through the Dragon Isles altar leveling through expansions on Azeroth will have extra world quests that are refreshed every 3 hours. It's nothing major, just a basic kill or collect thing, but it's meant to get newer players hyped and make them feel involved with current expansion stuff as they level. I don't quite get what this dude's trying to sell with like Dragonflight leveling, because it's going to be like Chromie time anyway. It gives XP and can drop Avalorn outdoor transmog, so it's all completely optional and just meant for new players for some bonus. This isn't exciting at all. Come on, waste. Thrall returns, of course, although it's less front and center than the BlizzCon poster would make you believe. Ah, they addressed that. I like that. He's more a diplomat for new races on Avalorn who don't follow the heretics. Oh, so he's going to be like Bolvar. Sorry, Metzen. Thrall got knocked the hell down. There's a race of owl people who use psychic abilities to shield them and us from old god corruption. Lots of cool animations relating to telekinesis and effects that play with those abilities. Magni will be around, a lot like Khadgar now in Dragonflight. I'm still on this whole, hey, my family member told me about this, but I was just imagining her trying to tell him, oh yeah, you know Magni? Yeah, so I'm not going to give you any backstory, but Magni's going to be around, you know, a lot like Khadgar now in Dragonflight. Oh, but you know, I should explain Khadgar now in Dragonflight. Oh, I should explain who Khadgar actually is. Anyway, as Ashara returns, as does Xal'atath. They're working beyond the veil, making sure events transpire according to the Void's design. There's future conflicts, there are future conflicts, and they appear in the leveling content, but we won't directly confront them. It's built up similar to the Lich King. I wasn't fond of the whole Saturday morning cartoon sort of thing where, you know, you pop in and then the Lich King's like, this is my influence, you know, that sort of thing. The tone is meant to be horror, but there's supposed to be jump scares, though they're apparently very light and not often. Treasure chests out in the world can be mimic-type creatures. Occasionally, whispers pierce your psychic guard. The music is supposed to keep you on your toes and feel very eerie. You'll see things in the distance that aren't really there. Once you reach it, the thing will disappear with a shadow effect, or a tentacle will slither underground, and then we'll bug it. Yeah, stuff is disappearing, Blizz. Fix your game. The capital is a Titan facility, Uldaz. It's broken and it's run down. The old god prisoner missing from its cell below. The owl people have made their home above and around it. It's a mix of the old Titan facility look and more Gothic or Southeast Asia mixture of architecture. No new race or class. Okay, dude, they should have... If this line wasn't here, I would mock this less if this first paragraph wasn't there. No new race or class. So it's like, hey, relative, I'm sorry I keep getting stuck on this, but it's their fault. They opened the door for this. A relative's like, by the way, there's no new race or class. There's like no context behind that if you're trying to tell this to someone who supposedly doesn't know anything about WoW. Anyway, there's a new side mode. It's called Shindria, the Font of Knowledge. It's meant to be a great library of dark knowledge that changes and rearranges itself every time you leave and enter. You're solving riddles and puzzles, you're fighting bosses, and gaining insight into the void and the plans beyond corrupting Azeroth's world soul. It's supposed to be trippy and similar to Return to Karazhan, walking on ceilings, shrinking down, and so on. Similar to Torghast, you'll gain knowledge each time you find a tome that'll give you some lore and powers within. Some are passives and are actives, like picking a trap up off the wall and placing it beneath the boss instead. That sounds kind of fun. It's all optional and only cosmetic rewards, but those rewards include some new glyphs that mimic new effects seen in Avalorn and translate some of that into your abilities. Void, Consecration, Psychic, Arcane Missiles. It's not full class skins, but it'll change in abilities, animation, or effects. That's a lot of bullshit. See you in November. So this is probably the most interesting thing that this dude talked about, at least with like the concept. Now, one of the takeaways for me is the whole thing about being all optional and just cosmetic rewards, and I'm a bit wary of something like that. You know, a lot of discourse that I've been jumping in lately is, you know, what's the line that we draw between something that is optional and something that's fully required? The line is super thin. I've observed. As soon as you put player power on a thing, it no longer becomes an option. It becomes something that is that feels required by players. But when it is totally optional, then you'll have at least a certain element of players be like, oh my god, this is like literally no content. What gives, Blizz? You're giving us all these things that no one wants to do, and you know it's a very disingenuous critique, but it's, you know, it's loud and it's constantly there. So I wondered to myself, like, how much does the team want to invest in like new systems, but limit the audience to people who don't care about player power? Because while I would say that's a pretty big audience, I would also say that probably doesn't sell expansion boxes, and that's kind of like a shtick that I'm that I'm starting to, you know, have my discourse around. That when you try to sell an expansion, but you don't have something that makes players feel powerful, they just look good. That risks making that expansion very unappealing. And I think that's a good chunk of what of why Dragonflight doesn't end up being as appealing to some for others. The Voidskeeping is kind of cool, although it is basically, hey, let's just add another layer to the dragon riding stuff. Hey, you know, let's add this like pseudo underwater thing. But I don't think that would. I don't. I'm not so keen on that because it's basically just dragon riding with another layer to it, and I'm not quite sure what they're trying to sell there. Like, why the water? But from Into Zakar, we got World of Warcraft Empire of Void 10.3 and beyond. This is oh god, is this two things? No, it's not two things. It is one post. Okay. Oh boy, let's do it. At the end of the 10.2 Emergisil raid, the new world tree is saved, which activates the Mother Oath Stone at Tierhold. Kind of makes sense, but we'll find out in like a month or so. 10.3 Return of the Aspects. When the Oath Stones are all activated, also we're finding out just 10.3, not even 11.0 yet. When the Oath Stones are all activated, the Tower of Vakthros in the Azure Spans begins glowing with arcane energy. Below Vakthros is a huge system of arcane ley lines that powers the Titan facility, where the aspects can re-empower themselves. The new raid is Vakthros. Araethum was planning for Vakthros to be unlocked and gets inside before us. We fight against his forces and through some Titan-related bosses until we fight Araethum. At the center of the ley lines is a Titan machine called the Eye of Norgannon. Wait, didn't we have something like that? Wasn't there a Titan relic called the... No, it was the Eye of Aman'Thul. Oh, but this is the Eye of Norgannon, because Titans have a bunch of eyes. We battle for control to empower the aspects. Araethum is using the machine to empower the essence of Galakrond, which we find out in the 10.3 campaign is actually called the Void Soul. We beat him and empower the aspects, but Araethum collapses the cavern and escapes. Those Dormu and Caligos chase him, and the raid is over. That would turn out to be a pretty unexciting sounding end to the expansion. I mean, they're powered up and all that. They're juiced. Okay, cool. But that's not bad. That is not a bad premise. It's not the best. Not expecting the best, but it's not bad. The title is terrible, though. Sorry, man. World of Warcraft Empire of Void. The cinematic will come at BlizzCon. Whoa. Mind-blowing. In the cinematic, Nosdorma and Caligos are chasing Araethum through the night sky, trying to bring him down. Araethum flies over a mountain, and they lose him in the clouds. We don't know where they are until we see Araethum land, turn into his visage form, and then limp up some very familiar steps. He's standing in front of the Dark Portal. Those Norma and Caligos finally catch up and tell Araethum to surrender. He monologues, and then uses the Void Soul on the Dark Portal. The Void Soul fires a beam of void magic at the Dark Portal, which spreads and violently turns the portal purple. Void energy begins to pour out, and an army of Void Walkers come through the portal. Those Norma and Caligos try to fight them. The camera follows Araethum, who continues monologuing and changes back into his dragon form. He flies into the portal and reveals a massive void realm of planets being drained into a void maelstrom. Araethum soars over the tops of a few of the main zones, and then we see the logo. That sounds neat. I'm sure more lore-based people will be like, "This is such bullshit." But as just pure spectacle, that sounds kind of cool. And I think that should be really like what these leaks try to do. Just get people excited, get people thinking a little bit. Don't, I guess try to convince me too, but I think the best way to blind me from thinking that this is all bullshit and that it is all bullshit, the best way to blind me though is to just come up with some cool shit that at least seems kind of convincing. But anyway, the new continent is Zakar, the Fading Empire. It's always an empire. Zakar is a pocket dimension between reality and the Void Realm that the Void Lords use to transform mortal beings into void-twisted armies. The place is scattered with countless planets that are either corrupted completely by Void or in the process of being consumed into a giant void maelstrom. The skyboxes are filled with dark stars, void planets, and nebulae. Think of an Outland 2.0 that is completely redesigned around the void and space magic. Space magic. There are a handful of planets that are colliding against each other as they get sucked into the void maelstrom. They are the different zones of Zakar that create a unified landmass. This is not like Shadowlands. The zones are connected. Each zone is a totally unique planet that was brought into Zakar by the void. The main zones we travel to still have denizens that are fighting back against the void, although not many are left. They all have different cultures and mortal races. The only thing they have in common is that their overuse of arcane magic attracted the Void Lords. Azeroth didn't attract it before. Burning Legion was like, hell yeah, I want to get up on that, but I guess these were different somehow. We land on Zakar after regaining control of the Dark Portal. We quest through the zones, helping each planet survive being corrupted by the Void. The main villain is a Void Lieutenant named Zeros. He's a creepy purple cloaked Void Mage who resembles a ring wraith that is in charge of conquering all the planets in Zakar. Zakar, that sounds familiar. Isn't that like a planet in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Marvel Universe or something like that? Oh, I skipped a whole paragraph. I'm sorry. Zakar is very much like Outlands meets Void meets Guardians of the Galaxy, hence the whole Zakar thing. Great. This is pretty much a space expansion, but the story isn't that cosmic in scale, at least not at first. The art style takes classic sci-fi designs and reimagines them into a more Warcraft grounded style of arcane space magic. The style is vibrant and fun. Zakar is not a desolate husk like parts of the Shadowlands were. Which parts of the Shadowlands were desolate? I guess he's talking smack about... Oh, crap. Maldraxxus. This is more like Outlands 2.0. Dynamic flying is enabled throughout. So I guess the framing that I'm having in my head is that you have these zones that are actually different planets, but then I guess when you travel from one zone to another, it's kind of like you're going through like a tear in the universe, and then you just end up, boom, in this other zone or whatever. You know, like just imagine if the zones were like separated by a pie. Each section of the pie is separated by this kind of visible portal like thing that lets you see into the next one. So that's kind of a cool visual effect. I think that would be kind of neat. And it allows for like these really ridiculous looking biomes where, you know, you cross into another zone and you're going from like purple to green straight up because it's just a portal that's leading to that. Carthun. This planet has an ogre-like race that wears armor that's basically like a Warcraft version of the Warhammer Space Marines. They're a brutal, low-tech civilization that uses chainsaws, swords, and guns, kind of similar to the Iron Horde. Their buildings and society are all Roman influence, and they have many Colosseum-like structures, but where is there? But their overuse of arcane magic attracted the Void Lords. Okay. Alnir has a planet race of mortals that are basically just Space Knight of Vrykul that are addicted to arcane magic. Okay, so that fits. They have floating castles and huge beards. They all have the Warcraft equivalent of laser swords. They're not like lightsabers, more like runic energy swords that kind of resemble Teyselach. Then we have Xerasath. Whatever. This is the home planet of a race very similar to Ethereals, long before falling into... Wait, but then the Ethereal race, I think they just look like normal people. They probably did have normal people, but then they turned into Ethereals. So anyway. Long before falling into Zakar, the mortals of that place killed a Titan who ruled over them. In the battle, the Titan plummeted the planet with arcane energy and turned them into these Ethereals. The main hub city of Zakar is built inside the Titan's skull. They have architecture very similar to Suramar's style, but they have much more glowing magic floating around and holding ancient buildings together. Osrium. This planet is home to a race of Anubis-looking humanoids that have superior arcane technology. The zone is heavily based on ancient Egypt, and it basically looks like if you put an updated Oldham in the Netherstorm. They have flying space pyramids powered by arcane magic. It's in a constant void storm, and parts of the desert are being eroded into void stuff. And Mukoro. This planet is home to a race of Earthen-like mortals that are built more like Kultirans and are based on Pacific Island themes. The design looks kind of like Ori and the Blind Forest meets Easter Island heads. Okay. It's an exotic tropical space island with amazing glowing waterfalls that fall off the landmass and into the void. There are giant stone statues that glow and have sentience. It's the most recent planet to fall into Zakar and has been destroyed by the void the least. The environments are still vibrant. There's still an atmosphere, and you can see blue skies and cosmic chaos floating in the skyboxes. There's a lot of thought into this, but I don't feel excited about this. Like, it's definitely not answering what a lot of the discourse is calling for, which is, you know, a return to Warcraft or something like that. And it feels like we're getting, you know, it feels like this one is very, very otherworldly. It's very alien, I guess. You know, this is not a return to Azeroth. It's the direct opposite. So I think for some, it's just like, nope, this doesn't excite me. Kind of like how post Shadowlands, you know, even I was like, hey, we need to go back to Azeroth and blah blah blah. We did go back to Azeroth, but it turned out for some the story just wasn't that exciting. Here it's like, oh fuck Azeroth. Well, we're gonna leave. We're gonna go to this other spot, and now we're kind of falling into the whole Shadowlands trap again, where it's gonna be Blizzard's job to try and sell all these new races, you know, all of these concepts, all of these themes all at once. And it's going to challenge people to do something different. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about if there's no like new system or something fun that really hooks people in, makes them feel powerful, this will not succeed. Or, you know, a formula like this will just not work. So anyway, new playable race, Ethereals, Void Rifts. These are randomized scenarios that take the player to explore the remains of the void-corrupted planets in Zakar. They're basically just reworked island expeditions. Dead. It's dead to me. With added power-ups similar to Torghast and can only reward cosmetic items. They're not hard or timed. They can be done alone or in a group of up to 3 people. For me, at least, island expeditions are probably the biggest disappointment that I've seen from any WoW feature. That's just a personal opinion, okay? Don't hang me for this one. You know, they I remember when they first talked about it, it seemed kind of exciting, but then in practice, I was like, I'm just like going around Zerging stuff without really feeling the puzzle because of timers and, you know, other such things. So a concept like this can still work, but, you know, not being timed will help, I guess. A new legendary system. There will be a robust legendary system similar to Legion legendaries. Oh, fuck. They can drop from multiple activities and will drop the same way Legion legendaries did. Wow. Way to like ruin the rest of your premise here. You know, if you, for anyone you didn't lose, getting to this point, you probably lost the rest here. From launch, there will be a farmable currency from most activities that can be used to deterministically buy the legendaries you want from a vendor. Basically, the acquisition system is the same as if. Okay, so this is not a system. No, this is nothing. This is not exciting at all. You know what this is? It's just a vendor. That's it. Boom. It's just, hey, you want gear? You do stuff. It's like farming Valor Conquest. You just get a thing. Hey guys, check it out. We got this new feature where you get a currency and you buy items that are better than other things. Oh my god, that's how you prop up and destroy a feature in like a single statement, which is what they did here. Like this had me for a ride. And now the ride's over. I'm like, oh, is that it? Dynamic flying available everywhere. Yeah, that's and still can't fly in Quel'Thela's, Azure Mistile, etc. Haha, take that. Time walking updates. Time walking events will offer rotating world quests for players to re-experience old zones. Wrath time. Hey, you know, this is cool. I like this. Time walking events will offer rotating quests for players to re-experience old zones. Wrath time walking will offer a handful of quests from Ice Crown, Storm Peaks, and Howling Forward. They'll reward time warp badges and recolored quests. Dude, this alone, this is just a cool idea. hey, no, it'd be cool. This is a thing. This ought to be a thing to help time walking be like an event. That's neat. Dracula can be warriors, rogue, whatever. This is the takeaway. This is the most valuable thing from this post. Build you time walking in certain zones. You get some extra things, extra tokens, maybe some cosmetics. Cool idea. Bad leak. So we got another Eclipse. They're competing. Okay. So we got one new old zone, Feral Wilds. Desolus and Feralus will be joined into a new zone named Feral Wilds, stretching further west than before. It's part of a revamp scheme to slowly revamp old zones to size and graphic standards of modern WoW. Centaurs, Gnolls, Tauren, and Night Elves will play a role in the story, as a transition from Dragonflight. Major antagonists of the zone are the Botani that came to Kalimdor with the Maghar orcs. They tapped into the resurgent nature magic of Desolus and Feralus to spur a rampant growth in the zone. New dungeons in the old zone include Meridon Bloom and Dire Maul Core. And there's also three new zones that are part of an undiscovered continent to the west of Kalimdor. These zones are part of a larger landmass instead of the island-like zones of the past. Future patches and expansions will open more of that landmass as the story progresses. First zone is Kaz Algar, a giant underground cove with a landmass on top of it. Both places are full of quests and activities. Whoa, dude. Oh my god. Both places are full of, get this, quests and activities. Residents are dwarf-like creatures, the Asgar. They are the descendants of Earthen that got lost ages ago while forming the underground. New dungeons, Archives of Ul, the defense of Algar. Second zone is Teral Dozar, a snowy area and home to a tribe of snow-white and ash-gray skinned creatures that resemble a mix between elf and troll. The Al Arador are a splintered people fighting for survival in the harsh climate while clinging to a deep religious belief to their moon Loa. New dungeons include Trial of the Second Moon and Freeze Peak. Sure. Third zone, Kalmarsh, a swampy area and place of the expansion hub, Ava Lauren. Oh, look at that. They named it differently. Wild. This town is home to a motley crew of sailors and pirates that managed to come to this new continent. It'll be a place that will change over time. It starts out as rather small and crudely built, but will be built up as a new major city that will rival Stormwind and Orgrimmar in time. The raid is called Mother's Remorse. That's very cryptic. All right, so features include the construction of Avaloran, help in the defense and construction of Avaloran. Okay, this actually has my attention because I really dig stuff like that. Earn a place in this new city as it builds up. Players will have a chance to pick one building that is created during Avaloran's construction that will become available in a personal space to decorate and use as you want. Some buildings will have access to some convenient features such as crafting stations, bank access. All that fucks it up. So they're given like a bit of customization, which is great. But when you put in conveniences at that level, I guess when you make these options not options, but you don't really pretend that they were options in the first place, that's kind of okay. But this is very plausible and also risky of having that garrison sort of feel, and it's going to feel like a required feature or whatever that people have to do in order to play the game. They'll get pissed. That's just one element of players that really say that, though. Anyway, Chosen of the Eclipse face a new faction that will challenge what you think you know about Azeroth and the Cosmos. Will you join them or oppose them? I don't know. Eclipse Surges. Discover and participate in Eclipse Surges, a public event that will turn a place into twilight and summon creatures and challenges for epic rewards. That sounds like an assault, not a public event, but okay. Multi-class challenges. Gain temporary access to another class's abilities and face exciting challenges. Cosmetic rewards for abilities that will make them look and feel different. Now, I know that the WoW team has talked about how they don't like things that change the look and feel of abilities from a PvP perspective. I disagree with that. I think that's full of shit. I think that there are ways to get around that. But I'm not quite sure if well, I would love to get some specificity. You know what I mean? I would like to get specifics on like what they mean by that. Additional profession revamps. The revamps to professions that started with Dragonflight will continue. Archaeology will get a total overhaul to be ready to explore this new continent, but Leaker will not say what. Just saying that it happens, just to tempt us in. Talent tree improvements. The talent trees will get wider with more choices and new abilities to mix and match, including new starting and end nodes. And then UI, guild systems, cross-faction, and cross-server improvements, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The new old zone thing, that's a weird one. Why call it, I guess, why rename the zones? Or why merge them into like one thing? That didn't seem like a big deal. All right, so we're moving on. World of Warcraft, Shadows of Araethum. Yeah, let's go with that. Araethum. Araethum has entered the void to make good on bargains made thousands of years ago. While Farok has been quelled and an ally of sorts made of Vironoth, the heroes of the Horde and Alliance have little time for repose. When a pirate ship, seemingly abandoned, drifts into Stormwind Harbor, Alliance soldiers are sent on board to investigate. Upon the ship, they find the dead body of the famed pirate Night Squall and a message. The wars between the Horde and Alliance are mere games to the Kinthari. Come test your mettle across the western seas. Come to us before we sail across the sea and drown your cities in blood. Shadows beckon. Alarmed, the Horde and Alliance debate their course of action. In the end, they agree to send several ships eastwards across the sea. Araethum is a continent. Oh, not Avalorn, but Araethum. Araethum is a continent protected by violent seas and storms and home to several races. The Kinthari, a skeletal mix between elves and undead with a shadowy presence, and the peaceful Oldocs, humanoids with a deep affinity to the elements. Across these lands, the Horde and Alliance will fight a bitter war against the Kinthari and their void allies. And by bitter war, they mean several ships of our guys and the whole continent of these guys. So, because that's always how it works. There are 4 leveling zones: the Pith Highlands, Voidstone, Old Rocks, and Adelwich. Voidstone, once named Gifthara, Voidstone stands as the home of the Kinthari and the seat of their empire. Old Rocks is home to several halves of completed Titan facilities. The Oldocs of Old Rocks call this dank marshland home. Pith Highlands, the snow-capped peaks of Pith, are marked with permanent reminders of a battle fought hundreds of years ago. Adelwich, war has so far missed Aldwich. The pleasant woodland cannot rest for long, however, as it holds secrets vital to the conflict. There's also an endgame zone, Malgara, a place where the laws of nature do not persist and where a single plant could both aid and defile you with a single touch. Here, the heroes must investigate this odd place with the aid of certain heroes of Azeroth, including Hamel, Runetotem, and Zakan. You're going to put Hamel, Runetotem right next to Zakan and call them both certain heroes? Get out of here, man. Alright, features. Alongside the raids and dungeons familiar to World of Warcraft players, there are several new features of note. Assault points, similar to faction assaults from BFA and pretty much all the others. Assault points are moments of the war where a zone gets completely overrun by the Kinthari. Heroes will need to push back, build defenses, choose locations to build amenities, and tackle the Kinthari head on. These conflicts could mean certain services of a zone are lost in the fight. Mobs may disperse only to return when calm has returned. Vendors or flight masters may seek the safety of other zones, and whole areas of land could become corrupted with the void. To stand with it means death. A zone can be recaptured by either Alliance or Horde. Having a zone captured by your opposing faction, while not granting you the full rewards of the assault, does grant special recompense available nowhere else in Araethum. This seems cool, as in, you know how some of the discourse that I've been talking about, oh my god, we need to go back to, Warcraft. We need to go back to that. I like the concept of having a faction assault be multi-staged in terms of, hey, we're building things up, and then it's framed as, we we do these world quests, and these world quests will actually create buildings, and then these buildings will create mobs. And then once you complete all the world quests that you need to do, the topper is that everyone's fighting, and then you get into like this big. To me that offers that really cool Warcraft vibe. But notice that the way that I talked about it mechanically, it's just an assault. It's just do 4 world quests, do the thing at the end, and that's it. Very similar, kind of similar to BFA, but it might have a bit more visual spectacle to it, because when you complete one of these quests, all of a sudden, like, this building springs up, and then you see troops running over, and you can see them fight, and maybe you can participate in some of that fighting if you feel like it. But I think that would be a cool way to, not actually introduce any new tech or anything like that, but you bring things back to a Warcraft style of fighting. Very simple, bodies smashing against each other and you coming out on top. I think that's kind of what some of these players are looking for when they're wanting a return to the old style, I guess. And now we have frontier expedition zones. In the land of Araethum, some areas have been hidden away and unexplored by either the Kinthari or Uldoks. These areas will be available for you and your friends to explore, but they hold secrets and information that must be discovered before they can be fully utilized. The Frontier Expedition campaign will task you to explore this never-before-seen land. When you first enter, you'll find no roads or signs, no vendors or flight paths or inns. When you find an herb, you won't know whether it will make a deadly poison or a life-saving elixir. The creatures of the land will be unfamiliar and will require study, so you may learn whether it's safe to approach or whether it's poisonous to the touch. Whilst exploring this new land, you'll decide where the flight points will go, what settlements to build, and where to place them. If you can tame them, almost any creature within this new land is a possible new companion, pet, or mount. The flora and fauna will help in crafting unique potions and tonics, and the ore will be used in crafting various new powerful weapons and gear, tools that will help you push back against the Kinthari and others that aid them. Future zones will be added as the expansion progresses. It'll be announced, whatever. Okay, that's not very controversial. I like this concept here, where the zone itself becomes this feature, and then you, player, can decide how you want this zone to serve you, or how you want to serve it. Think of a kind of a garrison concept, but it's a whole ass zone. It sounds cool, but depending on what you get at the end, it's going to either be like, wow, this is kind of a cool thing, I can jump around and do all these things, or it's going to be like, oh my god, this is a slog, this is like required content. Again, it goes back to the whole at what point is the optional thing no longer optional? And that's something to definitely keep an eye on. All right, moving on to World of Warcraft Resurgence. Cool. By Resurgence. Oh, that sucks. I'm sure when the person made the leak, he's like, yeah, this is cool, Resurgence. And then when it came time for him to make the fake profile, to make this fake leak, he was like, all right, Resurgence, name was taken. I'll just go with the next best thing. That was his plan. For all this stuff that I'm about to read, he could not improvise and say like, well, let me just call myself WoW Resurgence or Resurgence Leak or something. No, let's just spell it wrong. People are weird, including me. All right, World of Warcraft Resurgence. There's no new continent. The addition of Proletariat to the WoW workforce has allowed for a truly massive set of changes to the World of Warcraft to clean up and bring the game back to feeling like an RPG while providing the modern experience players expect. So modern WoW, but it's anti-woke. I'm just kidding about the woke stuff. I recall that yes, the absorption of the Proletariat team means basically another big branch that can work on WoW stuff, and that's how they're able to produce more stuff in tandem. But I'm not sure about massive set of changes. But oh well, whatever this person wants to say in their headcanon. Leveling and story. Level cap raised to 80. Dragonflight content moved to Chromie Time. Chromie Time rework. Separated expansions with more clarity for what goes where. And incorporation of patch storylines into each expansion's leveling curve. Incorporation of patch storylines. So what this tells me is leveling can be slower. Leveling, because right now, even with Chromie Time, we go, people can level like pretty darn fast. Even if they're just doing outdoor questing. So if they're going to incorporate patch storylines, what's going on in my head is if you want to start a new character, you go into Dragonflight Chromie Time. You go there, you're level 10 or whatever, and you can go straight to Zeralek Cavern and do your leveling there, I suppose. Or you go to the Emerald Dream, 10.2 content, and you do your leveling there. Problem, I think, is that there's just not enough to do your leveling there anyway. So I think I don't know, that feels a little bit messy. Anyway, internally, Blizzard is essentially duplicating every zone, leaving an old pre-Resurgence and a new version. Chromie Time will shift the player into accessing the old version. Lore conflicts like the sword existing in Kalimdor, mob damage in the Barrens will be cleaned up and only made current if the appropriate era's Chromie Time is selected. This is all to facilitate the first part of a world revamp. Blizzard are setting post-Dragonflight as a staging point for a new baseline World of Warcraft experience. Okay. 10.0. 11.0? 10.0? 10.0 will have multiple core storylines with more focus on zone-specific plotlines than the overarching themes of the expansion. Learning from Cataclysm, 1 to 70 leveling will be more evergreen, with 70 to 80 focusing more on the time-specific elements of the expansion. I don't get this at all. Vironos' allegiance with the various Titanic Dragonflights and Alexstrasza is over. She has her sights back on the goals of the Primalist, while Xal'atath sets out to reanimate old gods to continue in the Void Lord's service and further her plans. Simultaneously, Lady Ashara is making plays while the Horde and Alliance have their own internal politics to deal with. I'm actually more interested in the internal politics than this plot. 10.1 will be where 10.1? Okay, I'm just going to assume he typoed. 11.1 will be where the core plotline of the expansion makes its real appearance, akin to Pandaria and its handling of the Horde and Alliance conflict in Garrosh, bringing us back to a new questing flow spread through the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, Northrend, and the Dragon Isles. Zones are returning to a static leveling curve akin to Classic. Addition of Northrend and Dragon Isles has enabled greater variety in zone choices. Hitting 70 will open access to a new campaign that introduces phased expansion content to a wide variety of zones across the world and grants the beginnings of dragon riding in new Eastern Kingdoms. Okay, there's a new Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor and Northrend. Dude, this is confusing as hell, man. Pre-resurgent zones will all have full access to dragon riding at level 70 onwards. Dragon Isles have it by default. Hitting level 80 will enable bands of scaling on new characters and the consumable that grants a 1 to 70 experience boost, bringing leveling pace closer to recent expansions. The goal is to confuse the fuck out of me. The goal is to make leveling take longer and more impactful with a semi-costly method of opting out beyond boosting your character. Heirloom gear will only work in Chromie Time until upgraded with a specific new item craftable at 80. Simple! So simple! God! I fall into this trap too, where I explain things and I expect people to know what I'm talking about because I'm referring to things that I know like totally make sense in my head, but not to everyone else. This is exactly that. This is exactly that. I'm sure this person knows exactly how to explain all these things if I were to ask them for follow-up. First raid tier is going to be 3 raids. The difficulty will be spread among them. Oh, that's interesting. A 3 raid thing. That goes back to, when's the last time we had that? Last time we had that was, I think, Mists. So first one is going to be a 6 boss raid called The Core. A return to the very beginning of World of Warcraft found deep in the new Blackrock Depth Zone. The raid will be delving into the Molten Core. Wow, we're going back. Cool. The area has been occupied by Dark Iron Dwarves now for many years, as much a part of the cityscape of the modern Blackrock Depths as any other. However, Primalists, led by Varanos Lieutenant, have made their attack with the intent of finding an artifact that could hold titanic secrets. So we're just going back to Molten Core. 8 boss raid, Halls of Origination, the Karaji Incursion, with Xal'atath bringing forth the return of the old gods and the horrifying transformation Ankarash is undertaking. Apparently that's happening. Karaji and Sultan forces have streamed into Oldham, focused on securing the Titan facilities of the region. The Halls of Origination are their primary target. Players will be fighting a mixture of Oldham's defenders, remnants of N'Zoth's visions, and now the new Karaji threat, all at once in this raid. And there's a 3-boss raid, the Realm of the Slitherer, with the Master's Glaive long since removed from its corpse. The dreaded Sagat the Slitherer has made its grand return to Azeroth, a massive hulking and faceless one of mountainous scale. The raid will take place around the immense monster, with the second and third fights taking on the Slitherer itself. There's a departure from seasons for raiding. Mythic Plus loot will be less effective in raids. Oh, that's gonna go well. Mythic Plus will be less effective in raids, but just as powerful as raid gear in the outdoor world, and more powerful in Mythic Plus. Well, of course it's gonna be more powerful in Mythic Plus because it's Mythic Plus, yeah. Allowing it to remain on a seasonal system. Raiding will return to a tiered system. Tiers and seasons are the same, dude. But let's read on. It's gonna go back to a tiered system with the expectation being acquisition of a small amount of the previous raid tier's loot to be ready for the next. There will still be catch-up still, but not as impactful as this full season reset that's currently provided. New characters will be heavily benefited by stepping into the previous tier of raiding if they want to be prepared for the next. So this won't work. I get what this person is trying to say, or what this person is trying to do, where, hey buddy, going into the new season, all the gear that you have no longer matters. And I have a feeling that we're definitely going to hear that sort of pushback with this coming season because of the bigger item level difference. But this won't work. Not unless somewhere down here they also say that they're going to eliminate all of the rating difficulties. Like there's only going to be one difficulty, because that's how it worked before. The previous tiers gear, had some relevance because the item level difference just was not that great. In modern WoW, it's a huge difference. It makes a hell of a difference. And if anything, this concept happens now. A small amount of the previous raid tier's loot makes you ready for the next. Yeah, because if you're typically like with my team, we're typically heroic level raiders. Guess what? That heroic level raid has us pretty well prepared for the normal version of the next raid. And there are other exceptions. There are other things to point out too, like tier set bonuses. Those follow through. Certain trinkets, those in some cases they feel still relevant in the newer season. I like I said, I get what they're trying to come from here, but without getting into like more stuff about raid difficulties and stuff, this just falls flat. It's not going to work. Moving on. Dungeons. Huge amounts of resources have been put into modernizing and revamping the leveling dungeons across the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, which is a big mistake, I think. Including giving them new storylines and bosses. Some are no longer dungeons, but actually they removed dungeons. This dude's removing dungeons. They're no longer dungeons, but actually questing areas, such as Blackrock Depths and Stratholme. Blizzard wanted to bring more cityscape questing into WoW akin to Suramar. We're revisiting those locations during Resurgence and seeing how they've changed for better or for worse. I mean, definitely put the fires out and all that. But I guess they're not entirely removing the dungeons exactly, but just updating them. But I'm sure the dungeons will still exist. I'm not so sold on modernizing and revamping the leveling dungeons though. If this dude framed it as, hey, the team is being more aggressive about updating vanilla dungeons for the purpose of season content, Mythic Plus, and that sort of stuff. And they're also adding new story and both. That would have been pretty convincing, but this doesn't work. Some of these dungeons will be parts of the 70 to 80 progression. Some will be earlier. A selection of the reworked dungeons have been picked to have mythic versions. All of them should, to be honest, except for the ones that they just won't want to work on. So Shadowfang Keep Mythic Plus, with mention of Sunken Temple becoming a mega dungeon style thing, that's going to be a big rework. Because even, if I recall, even the classic version of Sunken Temple, it wasn't that big. The wide variety of modernized old dungeons will help future Mythic Plus seasons stay varied and fresh, as many will have a new baseline to work off of. Otherwise, continuation of existing Mythic Plus system with general improvements to the affix system, like the introduction of positive affixes. Without anything specific, that's not exciting, man. More miscellaneous player and guild housing is not this is bullshit. This is the whack ass. This leak sucks. This leak blows. But Resurgence is being built with it in mind, with infrastructure being developed in parallel. Sure. Just way to tease me there. New allied races at launch includes ogres for the Horde and the Tuskar for Alliance. I'm still convincing myself that unless they really bring faction conflict back in a big way, they're no longer going to do allied races. Allied races is a very wartime thing. I think they're just going to be neutral races going forward. Questlines will be featuring both to introduce them to their factions. There's no reputation required beyond that. There's no new class. There's not enough development resources alongside everything else being done for this expansion. Way to justify that for me. I don't really care. I don't really care why. New row of talents for every spec. Blizzard intends to go a lot further in exploring fresh and interesting class design iteration now that the system is properly established and people have had time to adjust to it. Itemization changes. Secondary stat rework examples include, but are not limited to these bullet points. The reintroduction of corruption alongside purity, a numeric stat that can lower your overall corruption. Players can cleanse either effect from gear for a price, and along the item-specific perks or negative effects that may come with. Great. I do miss Twilight Devastation, to be fair. Resistances are also coming back. Fire, Frost, Nature, Arcane, Shadow, Holy Chaos, and so on and so forth. Wait, you can't have Chaos resistance? That's like, bro, that's like cardinal RP law. Chaos is supposed to be like, pierces everything, man. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but that doesn't sound right. Damage types have been adjusted to fit more alongside the Chronicle introduced modern cosmology. And there's more stats, 2 or 3 more tertiary stats. Another defensive stat is in discussions to make a return. Tertiary stats will now often appear in deterministic sources as well as their previous random luck appearances on gear. Due to the increased stat complexity, a true loadout system for armor sets is being introduced. You can now have 3 sets of gear that will not take up space in your bag, instead of just the one that you've equipped. Players will be free to choose whether they want to use these for variants in specs or for specific resistances or whatever they desire, and have fun farming for all that goddamn gear. Professions are continuing to be iterated on using the prior Dragonflight revamp as a foundation. Resurgence will have more focus on specializing. It's going to take much longer to be fully talented out in all your profession specializations. People will be happy about that. But you'll have one free respec available to you in case you regret your choices early on. That's not enough. You give them one, they're gonna wanna get it all. Another will be granted later in the expansion for us goblins. Yeah, so free money. Blizzard wants to bring back the hype for major crafting items and the effort taken to obtain them. Hold on. They want to bring back the hype of major crafting items and the effort to obtain them. But dude, during Dragonflight, you've had certain people, not everyone, you've had certain people being like, oh my god, it's so hard to make a rank 5 thing. It's so hard to do this. I need a boost. I need to catch up. This is dumb, blah, blah, blah. So if Blizzard's listening, that's not the direction that they should be going. Although, personally, I'm fine with how crafting is. Item quests are returning in a big way, inspired by the classic and iconic questlines of the Whirlwind Axe, Verrigan's Fist, Shadowmourne, and Keldalar, and Rockdalar, blah, blah, blah. These quests will be a major effort for a singular player, a variety of class-specific quests, and raid dungeon drops. I mean, I do enjoy when these happen, but once they happen once, that's it. And I don't know what the solution is for that other than, hey, just do it anyway, because that's still fun. Long term, it does feel dissatisfying. It's like, well, once I've done with this thing, then there's, that's it. That's the experience. So they've got to be like really like high quality, really good, really sells emotionally, and mostly that. So it's memorable. Some of the premise seems all right here, but a lot of it just ends up falling apart. Like this thing was just the whole thing with leveling. I don't know what this person was trying to pull off with that. I find myself using the word uninspiring more often these days, and this is uninspiring. Like it's like, hey, let's go back to the molten core. Wow, I can't wait to go back to the molten fucking core. And then reintroducing stats. This is like just a mess begging to happen. Oh man, people will be livid over something like this. Moving on. World of Warcraft Cosmic Collisions. I won't tell you about my source, but I'll tell you this. Blizzard is hella proud. Oh, it's a California native right here. Blizz is hella proud about their new tech for 11.0. Here are all the important things that I know. World of Warcraft Cosmic Collisions. Xal'atath, once a mere dagger with a dark consciousness, has ascended to her former status as the 5th Old God. Simultaneously, the forces of light have descended upon Azeroth. With Yrel at the helm, the faithful followers of the light march forward, determined to cleanse the world of darkness. Azeroth stands torn between two formidable powerhouses, the corrupting void and the purifying light. Features. Empowerments. You must pick a side in this cosmic war, gaining light-fused enhancement or void-touched powers, all while delving into unique character customizations that reflect your allegiance, followed by bitching that you can't switch to the other side because you made a mistake. There are companions. Embark on dungeons and raids with newfound allies, AI companions. Sold. These trusty companions will join you on your perilous quests, aiding you in your battles and adding an exciting twist to your adventures. But you cannot sleep with them. But then you're going to see a lot of fan art. You know what I mean? Cosmic interventions. The cosmic war brings the constant threat of void manifestations and light invasions. Whether you're exploring a zone, engaged in quests, or facing off against players, you'll never know when the forces of the void or the light will intervene, creating an ever-evolving gameplay experience. What did I just read? The cosmic war brings the constant threat. So quests, right? Things happen. Like, I guess this is ambushes, right? I guess these are ambushes of sorts. Seamless world. Experience the true freedom of dynamic flying with all your flying mounts in a seamlessly connected open world of Azeroth. If soar above the... Okay. You had me at companions, and then you're like, stuff's gonna happen. Wow. And oh, dude, check it. We're gonna level up. Holy crap. Reach a pinnacle of power with a new max level cap of 80, unlock potent spells and abilities, reshaping your character's abilities and strategies. This has got to be like some AI thing. Hey AI person, can you just generate all the normal shit that comes in a MMO expansion, please? New dungeons and raids. Explore dungeons and raids that beckon with untold stories and challenges. That beckon with untold stories. What the fuck sentence is that? Explore dungeons and raids that beckon with untold stories and challenges. You know what? Skynet and that sort of shit, it's never going to happen. Uncover the mysteries of the cosmos, confront ancient evils, and emerge victorious alongside your allies. All right, zones. South Sea Archipelago. Journey to the uncharted South Sea thing where hidden treasures and treacherous waters await. Light's Fortress, which is a revamped Blasted Lands, Swamp of Sorrows, and Deadwind Pass. Oh wow, so are they combining zones here? Explore the ethereal Light's Fortress, a bastion of purity and order. Oh no, what happened to Karazhan? So is this going to be like a redo of Karazhan, I guess? Then there's Quel'Thalas, a revamped Eversong, Ghostlands, and parts of Eastern Plaguelands. Traverse the timeless lands of the great elven empire of Quel'Thalas. Amirdrassil, which is, this is bold, a revamped Teldrassil Darkshore, and Ashenvale. Experience a mystical realm blossoming from the seed of a new world tree. And then finally, Hungering Isle. Bear witness to the transformation of Xal'atath into a colossal tentacled isle that drifts through the skies. This mobile max level zone reshapes Azeroth's very landscape as it roams. That sounds cool. In a zone that you fly up to and it casts a shadow that affects zones below it, that's a neat thing. Now, I don't imagine it being like real time, real time movement, but I do imagine it being like, every couple of hours or so, like it'll like shift to like a different part of the planet or whatever, and then the zone below will be affected, or the nearby zone or continent will be affected. That's kind of neat. That'd be a cool concept. Maybe not in this case specifically, but it'd be kind of cool. Hub cities. Ilunar, the crown of Emirgasil, shines as a beacon of hope for the Alliance, while the Horde finds strength anew in the revitalized Silvermoon City. These bustling hubs become your central bases for quests, resources, and forging new alliances. Apart from that, the rise of Xal'atath will be the work of Araethum and Ashara, and the invasion of the Light will be initiated by Turalian, opening the dark portal with the help of a yet unknown figure. But you should know because you're leaking this shit. It's stuff we'll experience in Dragonflight. A thought that just came to mind. Why does the Alliance, what makes them own the tree? I mean, there's an easy answer to that. Hey, it was made by Night Elf Souls, and so there's like that sort of claim to it. But this is the world tree. How come only one faction is allowed to like populate there or otherwise own it? It's like saying, oh, you horde druids, you're not really druids. I feel like, this is leak season aside, I think that the world tree belongs to everyone. And if it doesn't belong to everyone, then you're just inviting conflict. I'm sure that Night Elf players will be like, no, we need to get our power back and blah, blah, but I just don't think that's the way to go. Moving on. By Paladin Earl. We got WoW leaks for 11.0. Let's get started. Summary of what I know. There's a little bit more I can't share because it would reveal what team my insider is on. Sorry, but this would reveal what team your insider is on. But it's a good way to withhold information without really withholding information. First off, the pirate stuff is just because of Pirate Day being this month. It's not related to the expansion. It's just coincidence, and my insider says people in the office are talking like pirates when referring to 11.0 to joke about it. I like that little bit of flavor. There are a few pirate mobs, but they're just for some quest and objectives. Metzen does a great pirate accent and voice. Yubara and Ian lose their shit laughing each time. In reality, they just want to make the in-game holidays reflect more in the world. There's going to be 6 zones. One of them is where Uldaz is and has a large magical dome over it, blocking players from entering until campaign completion. I didn't get many names, but they're trying to do different biomes from the zones in previous expansions to contribute assets to the next revamp. I was told one is a mushroom forest, I think modern Zangar Marsh, inside a Zerlek cavern. One zone is similar to the Iron Horde bases in Warlords, except it's filled with the traitor dwarves and their architecture. They're a faction that you're renowned with, starting at a negative level and eventually making them friendly. The third I was told about is a Forest of Light that seems like a Valazar-themed Ardenvale. I'm told it's very pretty. I didn't hear about the other 3. So I think Valazar-themed Ardenvale, and I just think Stormheim, for the most part. Stormheim, but less fall, more green. But then there's kind of a lot of green in Stormheim anyway. Dwarves and their city and outpost. They'll shoot you down if you fly over their outposts and capital before making friends with them. A sect of them don't like this and are the bad guys in a dungeon. Their capital is like Suramar, but with a few last-minute features that are taken as inspiration from recently video game releases that the devs are hoping are received well. Their capital is like Suramar, but with some last-minute features that are taken as inspiration from recent video game releases that the devs are hoping are received well. What kinds of inspiration? Are we going to be able to build spaceships? Oh my god! Or can we use like neuromods, and can we like have like blade hands and like hack into people's brains? That'd be dope. Or can we like have lots of sex with companions? So think of random thieves. And stores being robbed, muggings, crazy preachers, and other small things to make the city feel like a city. They're also working on a jail concept if you start killing dwarves. Oh, that is not inspiration from recent video game releases. It launches with one raid, but their time getting it to a month. To a month? They're gonna start. They're not gonna start the season for a month. They've made that mistake before. That didn't work out so great. The raid is inside Uldaz, but only a portion of it. Uldaz is more than the raid. Didn't get any more info on what they meant. Tyr will be here and basically hiding from the Dragonflights because Alexstrasza attempts to confront him, and he knows he can't take everyone on. They want to do player housing, but don't think that we're ready yet. The world revamp time seems to be their goal, as it gives them actual room to place these in the world, as in houses? Oh, that'd be kind of weird. They think they kind of owe something to players here, and they want to do it right. The only thing mentioned to me were statues 2.0, garrison statues but better, and a trophy wall with random models of different bosses, and have an engraving you can click on to read, "Thank you for slaying the baddie" note. They have something in the works for an evergreen feature for 11.1, aiming to do something to top the trading post. Okay, it's a lot of nothing. They're taking some positive colonial themes in the story, an idea of the Horde and Alliance learning new things in a few small colonies that they can take back and use to help better the old world. Yay! This one didn't quite excite me with anything. I mean, starting the season like 1 month in, that's definitely asking to test people's patience. I think we've definitely gotten used to the expansion starts, 2-week preseason, and then let's go. I think that's been decent pacing. People have been fairly happy with that because it's still plenty of stuff to do out in the open world. You definitely don't run out. But then, the people who are eager to like dive into like harder versions of the Mythic Zeros that they've been doing, and they want to get into like the raid and start getting cool shit. I think they've been making a good call with 2-week preseason at the start of an expansion, typically 1-week preseason for a season. So that was actually it. Yes. So there were like a couple of like small takeaways. I think there was like the only one takeaway that I really liked had something to do with time walking. So, and I only liked it because it just sounded like something that would be cool as a feature that could be like put in now to enhance time walking and make it better. But I don't know. In terms of like the expansion themes, like at least the trend of rumors and such, it's been leaning really heavily into Voidland stuff, stuff to follow up almost immediately with what's going on with Aridicron. And I keep telling myself, maybe we shouldn't have like immediate follow-ups like that. I think we can have things that transition, things that happen between these certain plot points, these certain events. Now, that kind of comes at a risk too, because some folks will be like, "Oh, we're not going to do like Aridicon and the Void stuff. Oh God, okay, whatever we're gonna have, it's going to be a literal filler expansion," which is a weird concept. I don't really buy into that, but you're going to get that sort of rhetoric going around, and once it starts taking off, it's going to start becoming this narrative that some folks will push, and then people will get into that, and then that just kind of ruins people's mood for an expansion that might actually like turn out well, but because it's just not even because people will be dissatisfied, not even because of what it is, but what it isn't. And so I guess what I'm saying is that some people do expect a Void expansion, and if they don't, they're going to be completely turned off no matter what it is. And I'm going to be talking. I'm trying to craft a good conversation on my own personal critique with a Dragonflight story and theme, and and share some understanding on why I think some people are turned off by it. But I'm going to come at it from a different angle, because I think what we hear and what I've read from folks lately has been, I guess the word is like very non-critical thought with the discourse, and I want to try to introduce like I guess like different thoughts, different angles for people to consider. Like, oh, okay, maybe I can see it this way, and then from there frame feedback and criticism in a different light. So that's going to be it for this week's leak season. What was your favorite? I don't think I ever have a favorite, but Share your thoughts in a comment below. Like the video, subscribe for more stuff. I'll see you guys for the next thing. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.